Hello and welcome. So today we're going to focus on the application Kahoot, and specifically we'll look at what it is, some ideas for how to use it in your classes, and how to create a Kahoot in your own account. So this is an example of what a Kahoot would look like. This would be the screen that you would be sharing as the creator of a Kahoot, so it'll display the question as well as the answers, and students will be able to access on their phones and select the answer that they believe is correct. So it's a game-based learning platform, and students are able to learn through these different types of quizzes and surveys, and it just adds that bit of competition. And there's music that plays in the background as well as a timer that'll count down, and then it'll also compare their answers and who got them right, etc. So it does add an element of fun into your sessions. There are various different types of questions that you can add to the Kahoots, and we're going to take a look at a couple of them. So here are the different sample questions. If I was going to play this with my class, I would just select play here, but I'm going to show it to you as a simulation. So you can see here the purple is going to be what I would see on my screen as the educator, and this is also the screen that I would be sharing with students via Zoom. Students would be on their phones, and this is going to be what they are able to see throughout the Kahoot. So as an educator, I would come in here, I would select my Kahoot, and then I'm going to click on Classic, and I would recommend that you do this, especially if you're teaching on an online format currently. But if you do go back to teaching face-to-face, the team mode also works really well. So after selecting the Classic, you're going to be given a game pin. Now this is what you need to pass on to the students. You can do that via the chat function, or you can just show them this image on the screen. Students will place the pin into their phone, select enter, and then come up with a nickname. So let's say I just want to be C. You'll be able to see how many players have logged in here, and once you have the correct number of players for however many students you have in your course, hit start. This is an example of a multiple choice question. How many Earths could fit inside the sun? 3, 1,300, 1.3 million. Let's say I want to select 1.3 million. It's going to tell me on the phone as a student correct or incorrect. And then on the screen, you'll be able to see how many students selected which answer. After that, you're going to be taken to a scoreboard. So each student will, well, the top students will be shown on the scoreboard, and you get a score depending on how quickly you answered and if it was correct or incorrect. Here's a true-false question. Switzerland is the country where most chocolate is consumed per capita. Let's say I think false. So here, now you'll see it displays incorrect to me as the student, and again, it will display how many students selected which option. This is an open-ended question. What was the first toy to be advertised on television? So here, I would actually have to come up with an answer. Let's say I think it was the yo-yo. I would send that in, and then all of the answers that students type in will be shown and fall away if they're not correct, and the correct one will be displayed. Here's a type of puzzle. Place the steps of the scientific method in the correct order. So here I would ask a question, form a hypothesis. Maybe I think observe and then experiment. I select the K, and then I get it correct. So here's the correct order, and you can do this with a variety of types of questions. A poll. What is the best type of chip? So here they can just indicate what they think, what their favorite is, etc., without it having a right or a wrong answer. A word cloud. So if I said, what is your favorite subject in school? Let's say my favorite subject was English. and I send that in, it'll appear as a bubble, and each student's answer will come up on this screen. And depending on how many students wrote the same answer, it'll get bigger and bigger. And lastly, you can also incorporate a slide. So on their screens, it'll say look up, you don't have to answer anything. And for you, you can incorporate information to further a specific topic or a question that you want to reinforce some type of concept or more information about after you incorporated the question and they answered. So those are the various types of questions that you can play with when creating a Kahoot. To get into some ways in which we can use these, I'm going to focus on the multiple choice and the puzzle and the word cloud. So for multiple choice, some different ideas that you could consider are using them as icebreakers. So you could do that with personal content. So maybe before students even get into your classes, you could send out a personal survey and then create questions tailored to them. Like who has 8 siblings? And then write various names of the students in your class and they would have to guess. Or you could do that with content. So reviewing content from a previous class, reinforcing specific topics or areas in which they'd struggled with. But it's a way that you can assess where they are and what you need to review. Another interesting one is fix the mistake. So a lot of times after we collect assignments from students, we will discuss things that we want to see being done differently or common areas of struggle. So instead of being that talking head, what you can do is put up examples and ask them to fix the mistake and then reinforce from that point, right? So it's kind of activating that knowledge within them instead of you just giving them the answer. A pre and post test. So you could, especially if you're doing something with math or memorization, you could do a pre and post test. So at the beginning of your class, you could use the Kahoot. And then at the end, use the same Kahoot and see if there is any difference in terms of speed or in terms of the correct amount of answers. You also can use it, most commonly it's used as a reinforcement quiz for content. So at the end of what you've taught, play the Kahoot and see how much of that information has actually been integrated or how much of the information they have remembered. You can also use it to spark discussion or learn about students' opinions, and you can use this type of question or really any of them for this last function here. Now the word cloud is a newer feature. I like it in that you could use it as a writing prompt. So something that I really enjoy doing is showing a picture. So let's say students at some point need to write on the topic of poverty. So if I would show an image of poverty and an image that would evoke some type of emotion, and I would ask students via the word cloud, what's one word that comes to your mind when you see this image? Students would incorporate a variety of different vocabulary, right? And so you'd get some vocabulary that would be fairly low and some that would be pretty high. And you could ask students to select 5 of those vocab words and incorporate them in their prompt. But it is a way for them to kind of push themselves to use new words and to integrate that within their writing. That's something that's worked really well. You can use it to assess topics that students are unsure of. So ask them at the end of a class, what's something that you want to learn more about, or what's something that you're not sure of? And then you'll be able to see via this word cloud which topic or which aspect of what you taught during that class that students are struggling most with that you can then come back to in the next class session. Obviously, it's a great way to brainstorm different ideas, and you can also use it to assess prior knowledge of a topic. So you can ask them to define, say, servant leadership, see what they know about it already so you can know where you want to teach from, as opposed to reiterating what they already know. And then with the puzzle, so you can use puzzle in a variety of ways. Potentially, if you wanted them to arrange information by date, size, weight, volume, if you're teaching a math or a science type of a class, or if they need to place formulas in a particular order or events in chronological order, things like this. But some aspect of listing, or can list by importance, things like that. So in creating a Kahoot, one thing to note is that currently Kahoot Premium is free. So all of the different question types that I just showed you, as well as some different templates are available online. And all of those at this point in time are free for distance educators. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So if you do not have an account when you go into Kahoot, this is what you will see. Go ahead and sign up, and you'll just incorporate really basic information about if you're teaching, how you're using it, as well as your email and coming up with a password. Up here, you'll see teachers, is your school closed? Access the premium service. So after you create your account, if you come up here and click on learn more, it'll upgrade you to a premium account. It'll just ask you your university's name. So I've already created my Kahoot account, and this would be my home page. Now, I want to show you one thing that you can do before I show you how to create Kahoots. You have the option to discover. So individuals from all around the world have created Kahoots. So let's say I just taught about the Civil War and I want to ask questions regarding this. If I search through the Kahoots, I can see what's already been created. And if I wanted to play it, I could. One thing that I would ask you to do, or encourage you to do rather, is look through the actual questions and make sure they're things that you've taught the students or that you want to reinforce, because you can edit them and you can take out ones that don't pertain to you. Now what we're going to focus on is going into our Kahoots, and this is my Kahoot page. So if I want to create one, I can come here and select create new, or you can also select it up here in the right corner. These are the templates that I was referring to. So if you wanted to try them, feel free. They're just ways that you can incorporate questions that are already curated for you with slides incorporated, as well as the different question types, or you can start from scratch. So let's say here, so I'm starting with the multiple choice style of a Kahoot. And so I would type my question in here. I might use the same question I did previously. How many Earths could fit inside the sun? Here you'll see that I can select a time limit. So if it's a question I think students can answer really quickly, maybe 10 seconds. If they need a little bit more time, maybe 20 seconds. And then I can add in answers. So 3, I had 1,300, and I had 1.3 million. Whoop. Then where you see the little circle, click on that if that's the correct answer. If you do want to use an image, you can click upload image, and here I have a picture of the Earth. I can choose to incorporate that. That's not necessary. You don't need to have an image. It does spruce it up a bit, so that's up to you if you want to put the time into that. So that's the first one, quiz. If I wanted to do true or false, exact same thing. I could say Switzerland is the country where they consume the most chocolate. True, false. True is my answer, so I select that. And because it's a true false question, I probably would use less time. So I'm going to set it as 10. An open-ended question would be pretty similar. What was the first toy to be advertised on television? And then I would type the answer here. So students would have to type it just like so to be able to have it accepted. You also can add here if you want other accepted answers, and you can type if there's an additional one that would work. For the puzzle, I can start with my question. Maybe I'll do a simple one, place an order. And I'm going to put the correct order here. As you'll note at the bottom, add all 4 answers in the correct order. They will be automatically randomized during the game. I do not believe this would need 60 seconds. Maybe I'll say 20. And if I wanted to do a poll, this one's very similar to the multiple choice. What is your favorite pizza topping? could be my question. Please note also that you have a limit to the amount of words that you can add into your question. So if it stops typing, that's why. You'll have to make it more concise. I can add different answers here, maybe cheese, etc., and set my time. And then with the word cloud, it'll look like so. And with this one, it's very similar to when you come up with an open-ended question, you just need the question added here. What was your favorite subject? And students will be able to insert their answers there. And lastly, if you want to create a slide, you can have it be any kind of a header at the top. For the slide, it would be best if you could incorporate some type of an image there, and then text. Whatever it is that you want to do or say or kind of go into more depth about here. Here you have an extended amount of words, 228, but you do want to keep it concise, just like you would if you were doing a PowerPoint slide. So now that this is done, I'm going to title it maybe sample questions. And I can choose if this will only be visible to me or if I want to share it in that space. So if other educators go into Discover and they look up something with sample questions, yours will pop up and they could use that. Okay, and then after that, when you are done, select Done and Finished. When you would like to play, you'll go back into your Kahoots, select your Kahoot, and then simply click play. Now, one thing worth noting is that when you are ready to have students play your Kahoot, you're using different URLs. So for you, you're going into create kahoot.it. Students will need to enter kahoot.it, and then they'll be taken to a page that looks like this where they can incorporate their game pin. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at light@westcliff.edu.